Haltatitude. Good morning. Sitsayaltsa sitsta twelcha Tulalip. Good morning, dear relatives. It's an honor to be here today. I'd like to thank the committee for asking me to come and speak with such honorable leaders here. And then to sit with many of you who work throughout Indian country to help make this world a better place. And we know that when we talk about our work in Indian country, it's just not on our reservations. It's in the urban areas. It's all around. It's across the border with our First Nations brothers and sisters in Hawaii, Alaska, and throughout the world. So this is a movement. This is a movement, and I guess I have like 10 minutes to talk about the movement or how we got to VAWA 2013. But really, you know, I want to state that the advanced jurisdictions in VAWA 13 would not have passed if it wasn't for you. If it wasn't for the many tribal leaders, activists, community workers, the prayers of our grandmothers, our young brothers and sisters who stood up for us and are still standing and are still fighting for our rights. Some of our sisters and brothers are at Standing Rock right now, and I just wanted to acknowledge them. And I wanted to acknowledge my sisters with the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center. I'm also a board member. If they're here today, can you raise your hand? They're out here. Thank you. Oh, back there. So there's so many beautiful organizations, and clearly not enough to help do this work. But with the passion and the drive with each and every one of you in this room and those who couldn't make it, we continue to help support our communities to live in a healthy, thriving way. And so, again, this type of work that we do, policy, legal, at the time the VAWA passed and the work that was done, I was a vice chairwoman of my tribe. I didn't seek re-election because it took so much of my time that I'm now home with my children. And I get to have lunch with victims, dinners, get to walk in the park, do a few things that I didn't get to do while working on legislation for so many years. So so we look at my title. There's just my name here. And I want to say that you don't need the title. What you do need is that compassion and that drive and that love in your heart to stand up for what you believe in. And every single one of us in this room has seen injustice. That's why you're here today. And that's probably why you're in the roles that you have. Whether you're a victim or you're out working hard to support those who need to be safe. You're here because you have a drive and you want to be inspired to do something. Because we all see the injustice on our reservations. And my heart goes out to those who came forward to receive something from those blankets, because a lot of us are grieving. And it's so paralyzing when you've lost a loved one. And so many of us in our lodges and going through a lot of prayer, especially this year, I realize, wow, I have pages of those I've lost. Those we've lost to violence, to suicide. Today is one of my best friend. Last year he took his life, and today is his birthday. So, let's see what's today, Saturday. Friday, I couldn't even come out of the room here. And it can be so debilitating. But I encourage you to take those moments to sit in your hurt, sit in that grief, work through it in any way you know how. so that you can wake up the next day. Maybe it's 2 or 3 days down the road, maybe it's a month. Grief has its own way of working its way through. But at some point when it's needed, that you can stand up and you can fight for what you believe in, because that's what we need. We need that honest, that sincere movement. It's those of you who stood up, who went to Washington, D.C., who wrote letters, who went on social media to say, our women are worth protecting. Dear Congress, Native women deserve protections. It's because of you, those who were not silent, and those who helped victims so that they had a voice. It's because of you we receive advanced jurisdictions. But as you will hear, that's paperwork. That's policy. It's a framework. We need your work. We need your voice and your action. And our elders teach us, from my community, from the Tulalip tribes, our Coast Salish people, we learn in our longhouses that for women, our hands are moving. We create things. We learn that our words are sacred, that we share good words with each other. And that's our movement. And when you're hurt, you go to the water, you take care of that hurt so that you can stand up and you can be proud of who you are and where we come from. And don't ever let anyone take that away from you, who you are and where you come from, because you're meant to be here today. You're meant to be here tomorrow. And we're going to encourage our children not to give up as well. They're needed. How is our voice going to continue? But it's not just our voice, it's not just words on a piece of paper or policy or law. It's our stomach. It's our way of life. These are the teachings of our elders. Don't be afraid to bring those teachings out. Do not be afraid to stand in courage, to stand in your truth. Speak in your own way. When you go to D.C., you don't have to speak like maybe your lobbyists or your attorneys or others who have spoken before you. Speak in your own voice. It's your truth that will carry us forward. And I encourage you, dear relatives in this room and beyond this room, to do not be afraid of the changes that have taken place today. It's part of the journey. We have been through great floods. We have been in places where there's no water. We've been in extreme winters, and we've always gotten through it. And we will get through this again. But it won't be in fear. It will be in the strength of our ancestors. It will be in the internal strength that we have when we pray, when we go to ceremony, when we pick up our medicines, when we hear our drums. That's where we'll pull our strength. And I encourage you not to be silent. And if there's something that I'm learning myself through grief, through some successes, is that when you pull it back and you speak from your heart, you speak from your spirit, it's a very powerful place to be. It allows others to be in that space too, whether they're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Navajo, Palma, Tulalip, Lummi, wherever you come from. These are the teachings that need to come forward. And I had all these other things I was going to say, but I never end up saying that. So I believe the work that we have done and how we've gotten here has been those people who have led in their own voice, who have carried those teachings forward and found out where their path was meant to be. So I don't know how much time I have. You better keep track. Okay. How many? Okay. So within 2 minutes, I want to encourage you to not only look at the past and where we've been. Many of us have traveled to Washington, D.C. many times. I've traveled with Alfred and been on panels and met in offices where people said, no way will we ever pass the Violence Against Women Act with Native American women being protected on their reservations through our local law enforcement. I've had a senator say, over my dead body will an Indian arrest a non-Indian on a reservation. And all I could say was, so be it. And so there's been many comments, but don't let those comments discourage you. Let it strengthen you. This new administration coming in, it definitely looks scary. We have a lot of teachings to be giving out. We have a lot of work. And in closing, I want to tell you a story that was told to me around the time I went to Washington, D.C. to share my story. There was an elder in my community that said, did you know your grandmother, she used to sell her fish to non-Indians so that they could send someone to Washington, D.C. to fight for our fishing rights. I said, no, I didn't know that. She said, yes. She believed in our way of life and knew that she wasn't the spokesperson, but she was a hunter, she was a gatherer, and she wanted her money to pay for that flight because our tribe didn't have money to send someone. So she used her own money to get to D.C. to find people who could speak on our behalf. So when we have those who have laid the trails before us, it is up to us to stand up, to find a way to communicate with those people who are making decisions on our behalf, and to let them know in our most loving and compassionate voice that our Native American women, our men, our children need protecting, regardless of where they live. These are all of our homelands. It just doesn't start and stop on our reservations. These are our traditional lands. This is where we belong. And we deserve to be protected. We deserve to be upheld. And it is up to us to continue that for the next generation. So with all my love and respect, I want to encourage you to be strong because we have a lot of work to do. But as our great elder Kenneth Moses said, we must lock arms together. It is our time to do this, for when we do this, we will be strong, and nothing can break us apart. So, dear relatives, keep your prayers strong, stand tall, and let's keep fighting this battle. ACM.